Can I ask you about on a federal level, like what can be done and what is being done or is not being done to support some of these like moves to democratize the energy grid, to help move to renewable energy? Um, and like, yeah, what can be done? And then I want to talk about Biden and his positing and positioning around like oil and gas.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot that can and a lot that has been done. And actually, the infrastructure bill included a lot of money towards making the grid more resilient, towards building out that infrastructure that I was talking about that can get knocked down, as making our energy provision more climate resilient, and also helping build in that infrastructure that can help localize energy provisions.
That's something I hadn't heard, honestly. Like, I do think that that's an important, we talk about Biden like singing his wins. Maybe that is one of the things. And also, we'll talk about gloating. It's like gloat on the fact that you're helping red states do that,
Yeah, it's interesting the way that, so I mean, I really liked the clips. I'm afraid I didn't get to hear the whole introduction, unfortunately. I mean, not the whole introduction, your whole first part of the show, which was just an introduction for me, really, of course. Unfortunately, I didn't get to hear it all. But anyway, the clips that you were showing from Biden, there is so much in the infrastructure bill that the administration doesn't talk about, and honestly, I don't really get it. There's $90 billion in public transportation funding that is key towards shifting our reliance on the most important component, the main thing that we use fossil fuels for, which is transportation. And public transit is the most important way to stop that. It's not actually electric vehicles, although there's money for that. It's public transit. It's getting people in big cities into public transportation. It's getting people in suburban areas into public transportation.
And Biden loves choo-choo trains. That's his favorite thing.
He loves choo-choo trains.
Why can't he talk about that more?
That was a big part of why I voted for him, honestly. I was like, this guy loves trains. I like trains. We love choo-choo trains. He's got my vote.
I mean, people loved it when he talked about Amtrak, and he'll talk about Amtrak sometimes, but he doesn't talk about the public transit money. I mean, there's just a lot of pieces in there that don't get discussed, and the resiliency money, the money also for trying to make a greater energy efficiency within homes. Anything that we can do to reduce our energy consumption is another key piece that's going to make us transition. I know there's lots of good pieces in the infrastructure bill. None of it's basically enough, and I think that's sort of the problem. It's like there was what was in the Green New Deal, which was significantly more money and policies than what ended up in infrastructure plus Build Back Better. But there's still a lot in. I mean, there's still it still is the biggest amount of money spent on public transportation, I think, in U.S. history. It still is the biggest amount of money spent on infrastructure in U.S. history. There are all of this money to replace lead pipes, for example. That's not only really, really healthy for communities that are getting poisoned by lead pipes, such as those in Detroit. It's also a jobs bill, right? So if you can have pipeliners building water pipes and not oil and gas pipes, then you bring the pipeliners union with you. Right. So a lot of these are jobs bills. If you can get guys who work on building stuff, and it's mostly guys, into building the infrastructure for electricity, into building transportation systems, into building water pipeline systems, then they don't have to have those jobs over in the oil and gas industry. And a lot of these bills, the infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better bill, which are job bills, they really are to get the unions along. And the unions come along when you give union jobs, and that's what's in these bills. And one of the things we've seen, for example, you talked about Manchin. So Manchin likes to talk about the fact that he's against Build Back Better because he's supporting the coal community, the coal in his state.
Yes.
Well, the coal workers in his state support Build Back Better. Yeah. Because it has a lot of money for transitioning from fossil fuel jobs into renewable jobs. The coal owners don't. And Manchin has not just been supporting the coal industry by opposing Build Back Better and voting rights, like opposing the Democratic agenda moving forward in the Senate. But Manchin has gotten basically the oil and gas industry as a whole, which always gives to Republicans. So even so in the 2020 election cycle, the oil and gas industry gave 10 times more money to Republican senators than Democratic senators. 10 times. So 10 to 1, 10 million to 1 million. This election cycle this year, that is the case for most Republicans, but Manchin has gotten the more money than any other senator from the oil and gas industry as a whole,
Wow.
5 to 1. So he's gotten $580,000, which is 5 times more than the next Republican who's gotten, the next person who's a Republican who's gotten $100,000. So, you know, he's raking in the dough from the industry as a whole by being the block to this legislation. And this legislation, I'll just say real quickly, another key piece that supports the fossil fuel industry, as you'd said in the very beginning, Francesca, was the subsidies that go to the industry. And Build Back Better is where the Biden administration has put its intention, its commitment to end subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. So that's another piece that's in that bill. And there's a lot of pieces that are in that bill that have been part of what the administration had intended to do on the industry. But it's, you know, still stuck in that bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, in defense of Manchin, like the Maserati SUV is quite expensive. And you know, I mean, and to say nothing if you need its oil change, it's a whole separate process. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do